Hello everyone, I'm Thom Clancy, and this is my first project video for Labyrinth. This video is going to be in two parts. The first one is a post-mortem of the Labyrinth that we made for Global Game Jam 2014, and the second one will be a small video demo of the remake that I'm currently building in Unreal Engine 4. Now, Labyrinth is an undersea exploration game which I've been conceptualizing and working on in some capacity for the last 18 months. Now, we built a prototype of it for Game Jam this year, which I'm pretty proud of, but I really only ended up producing it as opposed to doing any of the design work, which kind of upset me as that's really what I wanted to do to begin with. Now, overall, I think that the prototype we built at Game Jam worked as a proof of concept, but there were a lot of things that ended up being cut as the Game Jam progressed. And while this tends to be the case in game development in general, we ended up cutting some features that I felt were core to the experience that I was trying to create. So without further ado, let's jump right into Labyrinth, well, the Global Game Jam version. We built the game in Unity over the course of 48 hours this past January. Our team lacked dedicated programmers, we were design heavy, and had artists that weren't familiar with the game art pipeline. In the end, none of these turned out to be problems. Now, our programming was handled by two of our designers, Max Laskowski and John Alvarado, both of whom exceeded my expectations. They had a functioning prototype up and running within a few hours, and everything seemed to be going well. Now, while the bulk of the art was handled by a trio of artists working remotely, very little of it actually made it into the game. What did make it into the game was the submersible mesh, which was touched up by Mike Finn, and a World War II era shipwreck, also made by Mike Finn. There were other art assets that didn't make it into the game, but more on those later. In terms of level design, I'd say we succeeded in getting our point across, but the world just felt sterile without the time to really flesh it out. Part of that was not getting the art assets in-game, and another part falls to poor time management. Between the early morning hours of Saturday and early Sunday afternoon, very little work actually got done. Our levels were built, the character controls were built and implemented, but after that, progress really just slowed to a crawl. Now, my theory on that is that our team was simply too big relative to the challenge at hand. This made it easier for the people who weren't entirely motivated to hide among the people that were, as well as infect people with their lack of motivation. Opposite of that, I also feel that I relied too heavily on the people who were highly motivated, and that kind of gave a sense, an accidental appearance of favoritism, which was entirely my own fault. Now, with all that in mind, I decided a couple of weeks ago that I wanted to come back to this project and really see if I could make the game that was living inside my head. Now, my challenge was going to come in the form of technical design, which is really not my strong suit. And I had originally thought about asking John or Max to build the character controller and a lot of the technical design for me. But I very quickly decided against that, because if I went that route, then I really wouldn't learn anything in the process. The core mechanic for Labyrinth is power. I was inspired by FTL to build out a system where everything the player did took away from their primary resource, their batteries. Now, the player has the ability to determine how much power they devote to each of their systems, similar to FTL, but power isn't a constant resource. It's in fact limited. So power depletes depending on how the player chooses to play. For instance, boosting power to the thrusters increases speed, but it also increases overall power consumption. Currently, there are two implemented systems, thrusters and lights. Well, that's not to say there couldn't be more in the future. These are the two that I'm focusing on right now for the purpose of this demo. While power itself is a finite and constantly depleting resource, there will be a way to regenerate it. Batteries are placed around the environment to give the player the opportunity to add to their energy reserve, but the intent is to give the player a sense of urgency in obtaining their objective. More on that in a later video. So for now, I have a functioning character controller with three-dimensional movement, a functioning power system with 4 stages of thrust and 2 stages of lighting, and I've implemented all of the previous art assets from the January version into the Unreal 4 version. My next step is going to be to get a quick test build out and into the hands of a handful of players to get feedback on how the game feels to play. Because let's be honest, if it's not fun to play and to interact with the environment, nobody's going to play the game. So that's where I am today, on this Tuesday. It's Tuesday. on this Tuesday, August the whatever. So if you'd like an opportunity to be one of the few people that gets to go hands-on and test out Labyrinth, please leave a comment in the video below or contact me directly on Twitter, the link to which will go right about here, as well as in the description of the video. I'll also include a link to the Game Jam version of Labyrinth in the description as well, so if you'd like to give that a shot and provide any feedback on that, I'd be very happy to hear it. So with all that in mind, I hope that you all enjoyed what you saw here today, and I'll be back soon with another update.